Hi everyone. It's been a while since I've been on here. This is my umpteenth take doing this video because I kept getting electronic weapons fired on these parts of my head right here. Memory and cognitive function aren't the greatest. So here I am, umpteenth take in a row. I'm talking to you guys right now. How are you guys doing? So I haven't been on here in a while. It feels like a while since I've been on here when really it might have been only a week or a couple of weeks since I've talked about gangstalking. But the reason why I wanted to come online today is because I wanted to touch on a couple of things. I think they're kind of related, if I'm honest with you, but I wanted to touch on a couple of things. The first thing that I wanted to touch on is a post Brian 2 made on gangstalking and in particular on sleep deprivation. Now, Brian 2 is a targeted individual, or at least that's what he says he is, and I believe him. And he talked about how sleep deprivation plays a major part in gang stalking, but not necessarily in terms of health issues, but in terms of mind control. Now, again, this video is for people who do not follow my Facebook because I'm about to upload this onto YouTube, right? Basically, what we're talking about here is specific types of brainwave being triggered by sleep deprivation, which allows for the ease of mind control. It facilitates mind control. It facilitates hypnotic suggestion, which can be easily achieved through voice to skull, right? So when it comes to sleep deprivation, I looked it up. First off, we've got the delta brainwave. The delta brainwave is the brainwave that is induced usually through deep sleep, although if somebody is sleep deprived for a number of hours or a number of days, that delta brainwave can come through quite strongly after a while, and that can lead to this is why you get hallucinations, and this is why sleep deprived people have hallucinations. It's because of the delta brainwave. But the delta brainwave, or the overabundance of it, has also been seen in patients with dementia and schizophrenia. So this is one of the reasons why TIs are usually hit with the paranoid schizophrenia label. It's not just so that they can disprove everything that TIs are saying. It's because that's actually what they're trying to manufacture in targeted individuals, amongst other illnesses. They're trying to make sure that not only can they lie and say that you have paranoid schizophrenia, they wanted to actually induce it. I've touched on this before, but the delta brainwave, if you are awake and you have a delta brainwave and you're not an older person, right, it means that you are more liable to hallucinations and to psychosis, which can easily be diagnosed as dementia or paranoid schizophrenia if somebody doesn't look closely enough at the root cause. So the delta brainwave is important for mind control because it makes the mind more vulnerable. It makes the mind less how do you put it? It makes the mind less decipherable, let's say. It makes the mind conjunct different pictures rather than making sense. So the delta brainwave, it really confuses the mind when applied in the wrong way. And again, it can contribute to mind control technology. I'm going to get into Jemmy's points in a minute. The second brainwave that is responsible for hypnosis and mind control is the theta brainwave. And the theta brainwave is usually a brainwave that is induced during deep relaxation. So we've got a combination in sleep deprived people of a brainwave that is responsible for hallucinations, and then in the theta band, I think it's called the bandwidth, the theta bandwidth, we have deep relaxation making people more amenable to psychosis, not psychosis, but more amenable to hypnosis. The theta brainwave is what makes subjects more easily hypnotized. And as we can see, there have already been examples where technology has matched the brainwave of the targeted person only for that person to have another brainwave interrupting their thought patterns. From there, you can manufacture anything you want. You can manufacture illnesses and you can manufacture mental states. You can manufacture emotions as well. Make sure that the target only feels specific emotion for a particular thing, right? So sleep deprivation is the key ingredient to controlling everyone involved in this gang stalking program. But it's not just TIs though, it's also the perps. The perps are the perps because they are more easily mind controlled than targeted individuals. And again, you can deny this all you want, but I want you to really look at the psychological profile of the perps here. The same sleep deprivation that makes us vulnerable and can lead us to have psychosis and hallucinations and be easily hypnotized and all that, it becomes like 10 times worse than a perp. They're way more easily suggestible. That's why they're perps rather than TIs. And double points if they don't know about the technology that's being used on them. So yes, sleep deprivation is highly important to mind control when it comes to targeted individuals and when it comes to perps as well. Now, I'm going to get into Jemmy's points here. Sleep deprivation is a well-known technique done by gangsters. Yeah, okay. They use several techniques, even black magic. Oh, Lord, I've already talked about this. So this person's bringing up black magic. Black magic was already talked about in detail, at length. Go to my Empress Justice Tarot and Empress Justice Astrology videos. It talks about that extensively. Shortage of sleep is very destructive for the brain and the bodies. Just not adding anything at all. So like again, sleep deprivation has been explored when it comes to heart attacks and the immune system, all that type of stuff. Deep vein thrombosis can be caused by sleep deprivation. So the body, like I've talked about extensively, but it was just the brain thing that I wasn't aware of. I wasn't aware that sleep deprivation could make people more susceptible to hypnosis. That's why I looked it up and I saw, oh damn, Brian was right. Like um, it actually increases susceptibility to hypnosis and to hallucinations so that people can wrongfully diagnose people with paranoid schizophrenia. It can even synthesize paranoid schizophrenia, which is absolutely crazy. But then again, this is gang stalking we're talking about. So, once you have somebody's brainwave signature, you can affect literally any part of the body. You can affect literally anywhere in the body. Now, directed energy weapons are not needed. Stuff like lasers and fucking acoustic weaponry are not needed like that. But sometimes the body can become resilient to certain attacks, and that's why they have I think they have a rotating system of which weapons are used at what capacity and at what time of the day. I feel like there's a rotating system of which weapons are used at what time in order to maximize the effectiveness of mind control and slow kill genocide, right? So that was the sleep deprivation portion that I wanted to talk about. The second portion that I wanted to talk about was what I notice is that there are specific subject matters that get me particularly angry. I'm going to ruffle a lot of feathers when I say this shit, right? But what you have to remember is that even though gang stalking is global, when it comes to Western countries, gang stalking is very heavily tied to Israel, not Palestine, Israel, right? And the kind of weapons that private intelligence firms that are Israel based have access to include voice to God technology. They include directed energy weapons. They have access to these things, or at the very least, they're partnered with companies who have access to these things. So it's very easy for them to get, and it's very easy for them to target whole populations to make sure that they get upset at particular subject matters. Case in point, the xenophobia that is going on between different Black ethnicities at the moment. Black people have always been like aligned with Palestine, like at least on the surface, like representation wise. Black people have always been aligned with Palestine. So what these Zionists decide to do is they decide to use the same technology that I was talking about, the directed energy weaponry, the ultrasound, ultra beam technology, right? The voice to skull technology. They used all that to divide Black people amongst themselves. So get their emotions hit up at a particular time, talking about cultural differences. If you get their emotions hit up at a particular time, you can actually divide Black people. And so far it's been working, right? And it's the same with racism. It's the same with sexism. It's the same with everything. Get particular groups of people angry at a particular time, and the effects should be not only division, but violence. Now, I don't see the cultural wars between, Black people across the diaspora. I honestly don't see that getting violent at all. I don't see that getting violent, but I do see racism getting violent. I do see gender wars getting violent. I do see homophobia getting violent. I do see anti-immigration getting violent. And that's because the more privileged you are is the more susceptible you are to the weaponry. And it's designed that way. There is a reason why particular demographics of people are more privileged than others. It's because they are more likely to be obedient to violent objectives under less pressure. And that's not me saying that. It's white male scientists saying that. The more susceptible you are to technological and media brainwashing, the more susceptible you are to that type of brainwashing, making you act outside yourselves, is the more valuable you are to the system. Those are the people that have the most privilege. Those are the people that have the most privilege. So when it comes to this technology is absolutely being used to divide people. This technology is absolutely being used not only to slow kill people, but to divide them, to make sure that people only cling to certain aspects of the truth, because that's what human beings are likely to do when our emotions are high. We don't see the whole truth because our brain can't handle it in that moment. If you get us fearful and you get us angry and you get us bitter, we're not going to be focused on the whole picture of the truth. We're only going to be focused on a fraction of it. And when that happens, the ideal situation is that violence is the result. Now, ironically, we've got a whole bunch of, over here in the UK, we've got a whole bunch of Black and brown people being exposed as being violent, being exposed as being this, that, and the third. But the irony is, in real life, the opposite is the case. Black and brown people are less likely to be programmed by this technology, even knowing the kind of backgrounds that we have in our families. We are the least likely to be actually affected by this technology. And that's why we're bombarded with it the hardest. And even then, I'm one of the Black people that are being bombarded with this. Look at how my life has turned out. I went from being online every day, ranting on Twitter. I went from that to like doing tarot readings online and teaching people about magic and energy manifestation, like energy harvesting and shit like that. So I went from being somebody who was ranting online to people all the time, to people who was actually informing everyone, to a woman doing readings. I went from being completely helpless in London to moving completely the fuck out on my own and starting a completely new life. I'm one of the I am living proof that when it comes to the targeting, there are certain demographics it does not work as well with. That's just the truth. But these Israeli intelligence services, and they're aligned with Britain and America as well. These intelligence services are utilizing this technology in order to control whole populations. It's not just the Israeli intelligence services. You have to remember, there's Saudi Arabia money mixed up in this as well. There's Russian money mixed up in this. There's Russian connections mixed up in this. So it's not just Israelis. It's like it's a whole gaggle of rich people. But because the Western world is on the losing side, unfortunately, it's the Israelis who are more exposed at the moment. Do you understand what I mean? Look up black box creative intelligence and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay. In fact, I'll link them. Now, a lot of people are going to say that what I'm saying is anti-Semitic and it's against Jewish people. I got to be really, really clear about this. This is not about Jewish people any more than it is about white people. It's about white supremacy. And just like there are people of all races who are against white supremacy, there are people of all races who are for white supremacy. So white supremacy is what we're talking about here. White patriarchal supremacy forms the crux of gangstalking. So it doesn't matter whether it's Palestinian, whether it's the smaller tribal groups of Ireland and Scotland. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who it is. Like if you belong to a smaller group of people and you are not integrating with the mainstream system, you are more likely to be brutally attacked. You are more likely to be isolated. You are more likely to be experimented on. It just is what it is. And whilst that's happening, the people that are being targeted, they will have their emotions overridden and drastically enhanced at specific times with specific subject matters and with specific people. Again, it is a global behavioral control initiative. Don't let China fool you either. Don't let BRICS fool you either. You seriously think these countries haven't been engaging in trade wars with each other over these fucking weapons? You're crazy. So yeah, people are being politically influenced by these weapons as well, although I've already said this several times, so anyone who's watched my videos probably knows that. But yeah, a lot of people say, when you talk about Zionists, you're being anti-Semitic. This is not against Jewish people. Jewish people are not the problem and have never been the problem and will never be the problem. It will always be white supremacy. And plus, if people are going to talk shit about Jewish people, they might as well talk about Christianity too. Might as well talk about Islam too. I know people ain't ready for that conversation. But this is about what reality is at the moment. And the reality is that a lot of us are being targeted by these private intelligence firms that have the government in their pockets and that are using this technology to control to control the population en masse. And it's not even to better society. It's not like they'll convince themselves that it's to better society, but they're not even doing it to better society. They're doing it to control society. And the reason for that is not because they don't have any money. It's not because they don't have more resources than they or their descendants need. It's got nothing to do with any of that. The horrible and sinister reason behind everything that is going on is boredom. Well, the reasons are boredom and loneliness. When you live in a world in which you have everything and you're still miserable, it can be a lonely existence. especially when you see people who have less than you that are happier than you are. And I know I experienced this with my perps. I'm here on my own in this flat. I've talked about a boyfriend before. Truth be told, I don't know, man. I don't know, man. Um, I'm in this flat on my own most of the time. I'm watching my loved ones being murdered, being killed off. There are people within my circle who think they're smarter than me and they're not. Think that they can engage in microaggressions and I don't notice. Don't notice that and they don't notice that they're being played by me. Right? I'm on my own. I should be really, really miserable. I should be despondent. I should be, I should have no hope. But I have more hope now than I ever did 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I thought it was all over for me. I don't feel the same way now. I don't feel that way now. Even after all the pain that these gang stalkers have put me through and continue to put me through, I used to think everything was hopeless. Now I don't feel that way anymore. I don't feel that way. I laugh most of the time. And even when I cry, it leads to healing. There is a peacefulness in here that wasn't there before. And I'm a targeted individual who is on a slow path to certain murder, to being murdered. I'm not supposed to be happy. I'm not supposed to laugh. I'm not supposed to have fun. And yet I do every single day. Compare that to perps living upstairs from me. They have family, they have friends, they have people doing their bidding. They've got the police in their pocket. They've got emergency services in their pocket. They've got our landlords in their pocket. They've got everything that they could possibly want. But they're miserable as fuck. And the truth of the matter is, they could have the whole world and they still wouldn't be happy. So imagine having everything, not being happy, and seeing people who have less than you. Imagine being a white person who has almost everything except the money, and you're watching this black woman who is middle-aged, who doesn't have anyone, happier than you are. That is what privileged people go through every day. They watch a bunch of poor people happier than they are. So what do? They make sure they're able to keep the masses as miserable as possible. And, the angrier that the masses get, the more despondent that the masses get, is the more they smile. Because they're thinking, finally, I'm not alone in my misery. I'm not alone anymore. And not only that, these poor motherfuckers are more miserable than me, so I'm not alone. And plus, orchestrating the whole of society, cutting us off at the knees at every turn and watching our reaction, that's entertainment for these people. That's entertainment for these people in the same way it's entertainment for the perps. It's entertainment for these people. They get off on that shit because they're bored. They're bored. That's why all these wars are happening. That's why people are getting their limbs blown off. That's why people are literally being tortured, in my case, to the point where I couldn't even walk. Because playing God is fun when you're a bored kid who never grew up. When you're a baby who never grew up, playing God is fun. So yes, the reason why gang stalking is happening, the reason why this whole structure is happening, the reason why white supremacy exists and white patriarchal supremacy exists is because of bored babies who never grew up. And you know, like how strong, like if a newborn baby is not being fed and it starts crying with all the energy that its little lungs can muster, if that baby was a fully grown human being, that baby would actually kill someone. That's how powerful the force is of a newborn baby's cry when it's not being fed. That's how powerful that force is. If they were grown, they would kill people. We've got a bunch of crying babies among the elites, killing. That's what's going on. Killing and controlling society. And that's why gangstalking is happening. That's why you've got these technologies where people are being angered by shit that it has got nothing to do with them. That's how you've got people being angry at a specific time or with specific subject matters. That's how you've got certain social media platforms that purposefully drain people's energies. I personally feel like if you are going on a particular platform and your energy is being drained by being on there, that's not the platform. That's actually mind control technology. That's why all of this shit is happening. That's why the fucking trade agreements are in the floor. That's why another global recession is about to hit. Bored motherfuckers. That's why people are being killed in racist attacks, in gendered attacks. Bored fucking babies. So anyway, I have to go. I'm going to upload this on YouTube, and I'm going to upload the creative intelligence industry that I talked about. It's called Black Box, I think. Well, I think. My memory isn't great, but I'm going to look it up and I'm going to link it in YouTube. Okay? Peace and blessings, everyone. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.